In this video, you're going to learn how to choose a good product launch manager. You're going to learn the warning signs, things your product launch manager must know, and questions to ask potential product launch managers so you pick the right one. So here's some of the warning signs. If the first thing he does when you get him on the phone is try to sell himself to you, you should probably hang up right away. Any good product launch manager knows that it's all about figuring out what they want. And as soon as he gets on the phone with you, he should be directing the conversation to what do you want and what are your assets. So he should be interviewing you. If he doesn't, it means he doesn't really understand good fundamental market research. And if he's not doing it with you, he won't do it with your list. So that is the biggest sign to look out for. The next thing you got to make sure he asks you is about your list size and your relationship with your list. That is probably the biggest asset you've got when doing a launch, and that should be one of the first things your product launch manager is asking you about. Some other things to look for are a track record, and if they don't have one, that can be a bad sign. Now, it doesn't mean that you should write them off right away if they don't have a track record. However, you should definitely drill them a little harder on their understanding of launching a product before considering them to hire. Another thing to look out for is cheap fees. Now, if you're doing a really small launch and you yourself are looking to just begin doing the launching, that might not be a bad thing. But overall, you want to hire a product launch manager who's charging a good upfront fee because he clearly knows what he's doing. And if he's timid about selling himself, he'll be timid about selling you to your list. Another important thing is if they lack copywriting skills. Make sure that they have the ability to write copy, or they have somebody on their team to write copy. So really ask them questions about what's the most important thing about copywriting. What's your copywriting experience? What are problems you see in a lot of other copywriters? Even ask them about what they haven't liked about other product launches that they've seen. Those are some good questions to get a feel for how good this person is at writing copy. If your product launch manager is not asking you about the assets you have or your existing team, that should alert you to the fact that he's not really paying attention to what is involved, and he's kind of looking at you as a paycheck rather than if you're going to be an asset for him. Because you gotta think for a moment. If a product launch manager is going to work with you, he's also taking risk by doing the project with you. So he's also got to be evaluating your assets, and if he's not doing that, odds are he really wants to just get hired by you and make a little bit of money. So just keep your eye open for that. And of course, if this person's a smooth talker, they're all hat and no cattle. If they're saying all the right things in all the right places in just the right way, I'd be overly suspicious. Often I've found in my dealings with people, it's, the confident people that are good to talk to, but you won't find them being overconfident. It's the people that don't really know what they're doing, I've found, talk a little bit more than they should and exaggerate a lot more than they really should be doing. So those are some of the major warning signs that will alert you to something fishy going on. So here are some things your product launch manager must know. The number one skill they've got to have is market research. This is all about a market to message match, and if they don't understand what the marketplace conversations are, they're not going to get good email copy, which means your conversations with your list are going to be poor, and you're going to get very poor conversions on launch day because the whole funnel just gets clogged up. So that is the number one skill. The number two skill, of course, is copywriting, which is translating market research into the written word, which makes sense to your clients. So those are the two biggest skills that they've got to have. Everything else is optional, but here are some other things to look for. If they've got experience recruiting JV partners and managing them, that's great. If they've got PPC experience, like Google Ads and those things to help you build your list, that's always a plus. If they also have SEO experience or an SEO team for list building, that's another great thing. A Jeff Walker trained product launch manager is certainly a plus because Jeff actually just came out with his product launch manager training program, and that definitely gave people a chance to look at product launches from the manager standpoint rather than just the technical standpoint from his other products that he had. So that's definitely something you're going to want to look for. And of course, if they have technical competence. Now, I'm not saying they themselves have to be totally technically competent, and that's almost a warning sign too. You should start to ask them what sorts of things you're going to need for the launch, and they should start to tell you, well, you're going to need a web guy, you're going to need a blog setup, you're going to need a video editor, you're going to need, and you know, programs like Sony Vegas or Adobe Premiere. You're going to need a merchant account, you're going to need a gateway. These are the kind of questions that if you're talking to somebody and they're saying these things, you can get a good indication that this guy's been through the process a few times and he gets what's involved. So those are some of the things to look for. Now here are some questions you can ask a product launch manager so that you know you're choosing the right one. So the first question you should ask him is, what is the most important thing in doing a successful launch? Now obviously answers with these can vary, but hopefully he'll give you something along the lines of market research, because it all comes down to creating a compelling offer. And you don't make up offers, you find out what people want and you give it to them. So hopefully he tells you it's about market research. He might say copywriting, which is a sort of a right answer, but I would say that's a better answer to this question, which is, what do you think is the most important skill in a product launch? And of course that would be copywriting. The next question you can ask him is, what's the most important thing a successful potential JV partner will want? Now this is a great question to tell if someone's all hat and no cattle. If they don't tell you that a successful JV partner wants a reciprocal mailing, that's a strong sign that they haven't worked with any of the big dogs. Now, smaller JV partners will probably just be happy if you're giving them money, but when you start to get up to the B and A tier players in your marketplace, they will want a reciprocal mailing, which means they want you to have a big list. And if your product launch manager mentions that as the answer, you know he's been through the trenches. And another question you can ask him is, who else will I need to hire to complete this launch? And this is kind of a, oops, got a typo here. Sorry about that. Oops. If you ask him who you gotta hire, this is an open-ended question, and you should listen to if he asks you if you need a web guy, if you need a video guy. He should tell you the sorts of people that you need to hire, and it'll just sort of give you a feel for his confidence level. So this isn't a direct answer one. This is more of an all hat, no cattle test, where you're just gauging what his reaction to that is. And of course, if you want more information about launching your product, I'd be happy to help you. This video has been by a product launch manager himself. I'm actually Anthony Uccello. I'm actually trained by Jeff Walker as well. You can visit my site at www.turnkeyproductlaunch.com, and you can click on the Jeff Walker launch special in the upper right hand corner. If you go there, you can see my background. I've had a number of successful launches. In fact, I just did one with Richard Branson and Tony Hsieh and Dr. Stephen Covey, and we even had some of the big names in it like Joe Polish and Evan Peg, and it was quite an amazing event. And if you go to that site, you can take a look at it and learn a little bit more, of course, about product launching. And you can also submit your product launch profile, and I'll review it. And of course, depending if I'm not too bogged down with clients, because I have been getting a lot of requests lately to do product launches, and I will get back to you and get you those next steps for your launch. So I hope this video has helped you in deciding which direction to head when choosing a product launch manager, and all the best with your product launch.